Sign up today for a 7-day free trial at alerts.chartguys.com. Checking back in on the cryptocurrency space, when we last left off about 2 days ago, we were in a scenario where the burden of proof remained on the bulls, and it wasn't looking very good. We saw a quick spike up, essentially a double top rejection on Bitcoin. The top of the bounce was 10,185, and while we did break that level, we only broke it by 0.6%. And really anything under 1%, if there's a clear rejection from it, I consider that a double top. So I certainly consider a double top at 10,248 and heading back down to lower lows. At this point, the only support is 9,071 nearby. That's the low of consolidation. And if that breaks, we have our sights set on 9,000 psychological. Then we're looking down to the mid $8,000 range. And there is some gap fills on the futures down in the 8,000 and upper 7,000 range to be keeping an eye on. So I personally was stopped out of everything. I'm back to all cash. I laid out in the videos over the past couple of days, July 23rd and 24th, laid out how I was scaling in and entering positions, taking some off, putting stop losses in. In the end, it ended up being, maybe a 1 or 2% trade, small profit, which is ideal, and just remaining protective. So the bulls did not prove that they got follow through, and that has me back to all cash. Ended up getting a double top as far as my 2019 account highs goes, but just need a little day maker to get back to that level. And we're now looking at the bears just keeping control. So the 4-hour time frame, essentially I want to zoom in on the 5-minute and show you the BART action. So again, what is the BART action? This is where it's very unfavorable trading environment. And again, when you're seeing tightening ranges on the daily time frame, and this is true for stocks as well, not really to this degree. You won't see this kind of action in stocks generally, but when you're seeing a tightening, a daily inside bar, you can anticipate the 5-minute time frame is going to be choppy. So it's the same thing with cryptocurrency. We have a tightening daily range. We're anticipating choppy action on the shorter term time frames, which is why you want to ensure that you are zoomed out for a lot of it, because if you are not, this is the BART pattern where here's his face here, and this is his spiky hair, where you have a big move up. This was on a 5-minute time frame, 1 5-minute candlestick taking us up to resistance, and then 3 5-minute candlesticks taking it all back and then some. And I did get a call from the creators of The Simpsons, and they want me to come do some artwork for them, but I'm pretty busy, so not going to be doing that. So where we stand, 4-hour RSI is not oversold. How did the 5-minute time frame get so crushed? The 5-minute RSI got down to 3. The 15-minute RSI got down to 9. How does that happen? Well, number one, obviously a lot of stops triggered, mine included, and a lot of other people's as well, but it was the longer term time frames coming off of a bull move. The RSI on the hourly was up at 70, then we consolidated very healthy, it was still over 60, and then that all-out dump took us down to the mid-20s, and generally the mid to lower 20s is where we look for the longer term time frames for their RSI levels to bounce. So essentially, because the longer term RSI levels were not as beat up, and because a lot of stops were triggered, that's why those short-term RSI levels got so crushed. On this bounce attempt right now, I'm watching the 15-minute clear lower highs. We have to see the bulls break 9,466 for any bounce follow through. If we get it, we zoom out to the hourly. We would just look for an hourly lower high. We would look at the hourly exponential resistances. And then again, the same thing for the 4-hour time frame whenever any kind of bounce follow through gets going. So knowing that I'm all cash right now, what's my next trade? I don't have anything lined up as what I'm looking for. At this point, I would need to see the 4-hour RSI under 30, essentially mid-20 4-hour RSI and a break of 9,000, and I'll be interested in potential bounce plays. But until that happens, again, I'm going to avoid this short-term choppy action. I'm not going to overtrade and give any profits back from the last few weeks, and just going to patiently wait for the next setup, next clear setup, and for the next trade to come to me. Bears at this point, if already in, certainly comfortable. If looking for an entry, you're either looking for an hourly or a 4-hour oversold lower, or an hourly or a 4-hour lower high, and potentially exponential moving average rejection. 9,071 and 10,248 is the key range that I'm watching into the weekend and into next week. Litecoin, still holding the low of consolidation at this point, so that is notable. 76.63 support. We hit our high of 106.04. We have our higher low at 86.11, and look at the daily exponential resistance rejecting the price day after day. If we break 86.11, it's 76.63 as the next support level that we're looking to. LTC, BTC, still very tight. This definitely has my attention. Bulls want to see a break here. The range is 89 to 99, and we have to see a clear daily bull break and a bull cross of these exponential moving averages for Litecoin to notably start gaining some strength comparative to Bitcoin. Ethereum still holding on. So this is what everybody would have wanted to see as a bull, where we have our low, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high, still holding. So we're still in a daily equilibrium for Ethereum, whereas Bitcoin's already broken bearish and Litecoin's on the verge of a bear break. If we break 200 psychological, 190.11 is on watch. Bulls have to hold 200 and break 226.22 to pretty much form a miracle and save this chart and change the daily trend. It's not likely. The bears certainly have comfort and control. Again, for both Litecoin and Ethereum, we're just looking for hourly lower highs on these bounces as well. But the ETH BTC chart did get a bull break. Again, it's the same thing as Bitcoin, where I consider that a double top because we got a break with no follow through. Here was a break, very little follow through. I would consider that a double top as well. So a tightening daily range similar to the LTC BTC chart. Everybody talking about alt season. Again, I posted this on a tweet recently. I would be very cautious looking for an alt season. The altcoins will bounce, absolutely. But in terms of looking for anything like 2017, I've already given my opinion. I don't think we're ever going to see that again. My experience in stocks with hype markets has been when you have limited number of plays and money, it's the funnel effect going into those plays. They run crazy, they hit all-time highs, and then on the pullback, you create lots of bag holders. And then there's no longer that funnel effect. The 8 companies balloons to 100 companies. The 200 altcoins balloons to 1,000 altcoins. So that money effect, that funnel effect is gone. And yes, they will run. But again, for some of these names to try and go 80%, 70% back to the all-time highs, or even more than that for many of them as to what's needed, you have to anticipate that the reason they were able to get to those points was, number one, huge hype euphoria market. Number two, blue sky breakout, no bag holders. Everybody in positions was profitable. We're in a scenario now where as the bulls make their way back or try to make their way back to those levels, every level, every leg down that we've seen has a new wave of bag holders that are selling into that pressure. So the bulls' ability with $10 million to push the price up 500% in 2017, that same $10 million wouldn't get nearly as far because there's way more selling pressure. So just want to give the reason, the psychological reason, as well as the technical reason as to why it is going to be way harder this time around to get back to levels that we have previously seen, as opposed to reaching levels that we have never seen. There's a very big difference in that scenario. So again, when I say altcoins, I'm referring to a lot of the smaller cap coins. The bigger cap coins will run, as I said, Ethereum and Litecoin. We are watching for any kind of shift in this Bitcoin pairing chart, but I would caution against assuming that it's going to happen again. As I said, bounces will happen, absolutely, but I'm referring back to 2017 action, which I think is gone for the altcoin sector. So XRP USD, still holding support as well. We have our low, high of the bounce, higher low. Our lower high is set at 328, and we're heading down to test support. If 302 breaks, 282 is the only short-term support level, and you can see the daily exponential resistance very clearly as a guide. Look at these rejections. Bounce attempt, bear flag, 1 rejection, another rejection, 3, 4 rejections for very clear daily lower highs, rejecting from daily exponential resistance. That's a visual guide. When I see that many rejections, that becomes just as important as price levels for me, because I know if we're not over those exponential moving averages, the bulls haven't proven anything because we're still under the level that has continuously rejected resistance. Binance dropping down to lower lows as well, still well above the low of 24.17. But again, at this point, the hopes for continuation with a little daily higher low and a trend change are a lot less likely. We're now looking at the scenario of a more likely equilibrium. Low of the dump, high of the bounce. We're looking for a higher low, and then we'll look for a lower high. So a daily equilibrium is the goal for the bulls heading into August to be keeping an eye on for Binance. And Link's down testing support. If 225 breaks, which is a double bottom at this point. 205 is the only level here nearby. New resistance is 252, where we topped out on this little weak bounce attempt. So bottom line is bears are still comfortable. They have control at this point. The burden of proof was on the bulls. From the last video, I said I needed to see a break of the high of that bounce that night, which was 2 nights ago. Didn't take place. Have to be cautious of bull moves that are only lasting 5 to 10 minutes. That is not proving it to us. That is not showing us follow through. It's the same thing on the daily time frame where we see a great bounce, like Bitcoin just did. Great bounce on the daily from 9,000 up to 11,100, but we didn't change the daily trend. And why that matters, speaking from a broader market perspective and just shorts versus longs, when you see that kind of bounce, you put pressure on shorts and shorts cover, absolutely. But if you do not get the higher low and higher high, it shows you, number one, there's not sustained buying pressure to see that follow through. Number two, the pressure is not being kept on the shorts. If you see that higher low and higher high, anybody that entered bearish on this bounce is in the red, and anybody that held out previously to just look for a daily lower high then says, well, maybe it's time to cover that position. So again, it's a lack of sustained pressure on shorts, and it's a lack of continuation buying pressure, and that's seen on all time frames. So if that bull move lasts 5-10 minutes and does not see that higher low and higher high continuation, same as on the daily time frame, we can't look at it as a strong move because it's so short-lived. Trend changes are essential. Bull moves are great. There's opportunity to profit from them, but they're very different from trend changes as to how they impact the market participants as a whole. Do good things out there. I appreciate you watching. We'll see if this support, the low of consolidation, is now on everybody's watch for all individual names. We'll see if the bears are going to be able to head down to those levels. I would be surprised if we headed down to those levels today just because of how extreme that dump was on the short-term time frames. I do believe we at least need to set some hourly or 4-hour lower highs. Not playing this bounce because we're still in a scenario where the bears have favor. We're heading down to key supports, and the 4-hour RSI is not oversold. So again, that's now my new criteria. Is the 4-hour RSI oversold? If the answer is no, I'm not looking to play any oversold bounces. And again, that's just a little clear, concrete rule of thumb in this current trading scenario that keeps me from potentially overtrading. See you soon. Couple nature and animal updates, and then we'll end it with a video of a bear from just a couple days ago. This was in the morning while I was doing my stock routine and then went to get some coffee. He was passing through the yard again. So I'm going to have to worry about him potentially messing with chickens or goats or the garden, but in general, he seems like he's just using the creek as a guide, really just a trail to go about his way, so it doesn't seem very interested in the property itself. So that may be an ongoing saga. So I went back to the other place that I was living, which was called the Tiny Temple, where I had all those tomatoes and cucumbers, and I've been taking the pots of the stuff that die, like the cucumbers are all done, so I took those pots and I'm putting that soil in our raised beds and putting the cucumbers and decomposing plant material in there as well. But the tomatoes are popping off. We're getting dozens and dozens of big, beautiful tomatoes. I've been making salsa with them. But I went back, and as I was moving the cucumbers, 2 big praying mantises were jumping off of it, and they were like, their bodies were like that big. And if you remember the videos where they were tiny, tiny, certainly all grown up, and nice to see that some of them survived. So I got a video of that somewhere, but it's on a cell phone and it's bad footage, so maybe I'll dig that up when I'm contentless. Other duck stuff. Went out the other day in the evening to stretch by the pond after wrapping up a work day, and I've seen the ducks stretch before as individuals, but they all were stretching in unison with me in terms of, moving their wings and stretching their legs out, and I thought that was really funny. I've never seen them do that as a group before. So, what else? Ducks. Yesterday I fed them, and Mom usually stands on the back, and the ducks run up to the bird feeder to try and get some scraps, and I throw some food down for them there, some corn and all that good stuff. And she just watches, so I have to give her separate food. So I went and gave her separate food. She was on the other side of a raised bed, and it was the funniest thing that I've seen in a long time, where she would put her head down and take a bite of food, and then every second she would pop up and look, and her head was she would disappear, and then her little head would come over the raised bed. I'll have to try and film it because it's hysterical. What else we got? Bear, ducks. The hawk dove after the ducks recently. I made some food and was heading out to eat it on the porch, and I had my hands filled with plates and bowls and stuff. and the ducks were running from one pond to the other right as I walked outside, and the hawk swooped down at them. Didn't really try and make a full attempt to get one of them, but definitely an ongoing concern of mama duck is that hawk is around. So I ran it off, and a lot of people say you should just let it eat the ducks and let nature be nature. Yeah, that's one way to look at it, but the way that I look at it is that hawk has not eaten a duck in many months, and it's been fine. And I've also watched it catch multiple frogs. So the hawk can stay alive and sustain itself and keep doing its frog thing. It doesn't have to eat the ducks. And my goal is to keep those ducks safe. So I'm going to keep doing it. Other than that, I'll see you all soon.